this meeting face to face, but these are not normal circumstances. And this is the first time we've held an AGM virtually, but I hope it in no way detracts from the content that we're about to share with you. Just before we start, I want to say that we will, as we always do in our annual general meeting, be giving people the opportunity to put questions to us, which we will respond to at the end alongside any questions that were submitted in advance of the meeting. So you can write these in the comment box on YouTube, and we'd ask that you do this in the next 30 minutes so we have an opportunity to respond to them, or you can send them to the NBT comms address, and again we will respond to as many of them as we can. Whilst COVID is still uppermost in our minds, it is just worth reminding ourselves that this AGM reflects a year of achievements which were largely pre-pandemic. It doesn't seem possible that there was a pre-pandemic, but there was, April 2019 to March 2020. One of the most significant achievements for NBT was the Care Quality Commission awarding the Trust an overall rating of good, with outstanding for caring and for being well led. Our Chief Executive, Andrea Young, will talk more about this in a moment, but on behalf of the board, I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the achievement and the dedication of everyone in NBT who made this possible. I often spend time on the ground in the hospital, and every time I do, I see numerous examples of our compassion and caring, little acts of kindness to patients and to families, and actually, frankly, sometimes they make me want to burst with pride. I know also from the many letters I receive as the chair, just how much that care and kindness is appreciated by our patients and their families. We recognise that to enable our staff to continue to go above and beyond for patients, we need to make sure their health and well-being is a priority. In 2019, we continued to invest in our staff wellbeing programme with a number of successes, and that work will continue. It absolutely has board commitment. NBT is determined to be an organisation recognised for its just culture, a place where it feels safe to speak up and where we value difference. In 2019, we introduced our nationally recognised Red Card to Racism campaign. Our work to support BAME colleagues and to foster inclusion and appreciation of diversity in every way continues and has never been more important. In talking about our people, I also want to acknowledge the significant contribution of all our volunteers, whether the League of Friends, those that work tirelessly for our charity, or our move makers. They were originally recruited in 2014 for just a month to support the hospital's move to the Brunel building, but they're still here in their brightly coloured T-shirts, welcoming, directing and supporting patients. In 2019, they were recognised with the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service, a real honour for them and for NBT. In 2019, we continue to provide innovative clinical care, which for many patients is life-saving. And we are significant partners in major healthcare research, clinically and in the use of technology that will transform healthcare in the future. These different strands of work are embedded in our 5-year strategy, which was published at the beginning of this year. It reflects an ambitious organisation anchored in its community, a great place to work that delivers high quality patient care. Finally, although COVID wasn't a major feature of 2019, it is worth just reflecting on the beginning of 2020 and the significant pressures that COVID-19 put on NBT as an organisation and on our staff in particular. You will have heard much about winter pressures in the NHS. And in the midst of these, in January, we were asking our teams to begin planning for something we still didn't completely understand, and to support the setting up of a Nightingale hospital in Bristol to serve the Severn region. This brought together key people from many of our partner organisations and showed just what can be achieved when we're united by a common goal. As ever, the public support for the NHS through these unprecedented times has been fantastic. And I want to thank the many organisations and individuals who did multiple things, big and small, to show kindness to NBT staff. But most of all, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to everyone at NBT. The cleaners, the porters, the nurses, the doctors, everyone who stepped up without hesitation when we needed them most. Thank you. I'm now going to hand over to our Chief Executive, Andrea Young, to talk in more detail about some of the year's achievements. Andrea.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Young, Chief Executive at North Bristol Trust, and in my 7th year here in this fantastic role. So this slide that we're about to put up just gives you a snapshot of the size of our operations and the scale of our undertaking at North Bristol Trust. Keeping the hospital open every day, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, requires 10,000 staff who all give, as Michelle has said, absolutely of their best. And we're a hospital that is absolutely growing in our reach, serving patients from as far as Cornwall, the Peninsula, Gloucestershire, Swindon, Bath, but also predominantly Bristol, South Gloucestershire and North Somerset. So normally at our annual general meeting, we're able to share with you, or we have a couple of clinical teams who will present their services. For tonight, I'm going to try and do my best to shine a spotlight on 2 services that you may not always be aware of, but which are going to be absolutely fundamental to the future of healthcare and put NBT in a pivotal place to be at the forefront of modern care. So the first of these that I want to talk to you about is our use of robotics and robotic technology. And you'll be aware that Southmead Hospital is now one of the most technologically advanced hospitals in Europe. We have robotic-assisted cancer surgery, particularly in urology cancer, where we are now the largest deliverer of robotic surgery. That results in less harm, less invasive surgery, and a much faster recovery time. We do medicine dispensing through robots. We transport supplies with our 15 robots around the Brunel Hospital, which have really come into their own with the speed and pace at which we've had to deliver PPE around the hospital, and analysing blood samples. But in 2019, we took some big decisions to take a step up in this field, and they were signing a partnership agreement with the University of West of England Robotics Lab, here where we're based today. And that partnership has enabled us to bid for funds to start to pilot the use of robotic technology in assisting patients who are at home and who may need someone to keep a check on their medicines, who can also keep a check on whether patients are moving around or people are starting to sit in their chair for long periods of time, can record blood pressure recordings. And in the visual that we're going to show now, you can see one of our fantastic robots, Pepper, who is in the picture on the right-hand side, who can sit alongside patients at home, and we will be piloting that in the next year to see how we can support people to live at home with the aid of robots. The second thing that we're going to do with UE in partnership is that the charity has enabled us to purchase 2 of these robots to actually support communication with patients who are either on our care of the elderly wards or in intensive care, and where they may not be able to see their families or their friends. So with the use of the robot, their families and friends will be able to communicate both visually and through their voice, to be able to talk to patients, to reassure them and to keep in touch. And we're interested to see whether that's really going to have an impact on patient outcomes and their experience. And finally, while we're talking about technology, we're delighted to have been able to have received funding to use the application of artificial intelligence in reading mammography screening. So this is a test for breast cancer. It's a widespread test that MBT is a very large provider of breast screening across the southwest. And the use of artificial intelligence will enable us to report faster, more tests, but also with greater accuracy, as we'll be double reporting. So these are all good news for putting MBT at the forefront of healthcare, but also making it safer for patients, providing better outcomes, and we hope a better experience. The second area that I want to put a spotlight on is pathology. You may not realise what lies behind pathology, but if I talk about testing, you'll understand why this has really come into its own in 2019 and 2020. But the vision for pathology for North Bristol started way back early in 2005, 2006, when the new hospital was being designed. And eventually in 2012, the board of MBT took a very bold step with Public Health England to put a very, very large and up-to-date modern pathology laboratory on the site of Southmead. It's a combined laboratory with Public Health England, one of only 4 in the country, and delivers significant volume of tests and has really supported us in delivering very fast, rapid access to diagnostics in the last 6 years since we've been open. But clearly in 2019, testing and pathology has really stepped into the limelight. And before I turn to COVID, I want to share with you 2 other service developments that are pivotal to future and modern healthcare. The first is that MBT was awarded one of only 8 contracts nationally to undertake HPV screening, which replaces traditional cervical cytology and will help us save lives lost from cervical cancer. HPV testing is more reliable, it's faster, the results can be delivered in less than 14 days. And so far, MBT has undertaken 330,000 HPV screening tests this year. Secondly, a big innovation for MBT and for the country, we were also awarded one of 7 national contracts to be the lead laboratory for genomic testing. Genomic testing enables us to identify familial patterns of disease and hereditary diseases. It also enables clinicians to target the treatments that are going to be most effective in cancer care. In the last year, we have undertaken a significant number of genomic testing, and we are now positioning ourselves to work with all hospitals across the southwest to deliver genomic medicine and to deliver the benefits of genomic healthcare to the whole population of the southwest. So we're in an exciting place to really be at the forefront of new and modern healthcare. But finally, perhaps in everybody's minds, in the last 6 months, our phenomenal laboratory staff have really stepped up and come to the fore in their COVID testing. We've delivered over the last 6 months 175,000 COVID PCR tests, all under 24 hours. And we are one of the biggest outputs of COVID biggest providers and the biggest output of COVID testing in the country. Our first COVID positive test was reported in 28th of February, and now we're up to 2,000 tests a day. Why does it matter that we can do this testing, and why is it so important that we can do it fast? Well, what it meant in the early stages of the pandemic is those patients for whom we weren't clear about their COVID status, we could identify very quickly when they were COVID positive. We can now move patients very quickly through the hospital into the appropriate place. We can secure COVID secure areas for the hospital. And our ability to report under 24 hours means that those patients who will benefit from treatment, such as dexamethasone, are able to receive that treatment very, very quickly. So I want to pay tribute to the 700 staff who've worked incredibly hard in pathology and in testing, who have been relentless in trying to improve and reduce testing time, and are really on your behalf, recognise how important their work has been. So finally, my last slide is to turn to Care Quality Commissioner, and of course care and quality are what hospitals are all about. This picture really tells it all, and this is the picture of the faces of our staff who have worked very, very hard to get to a really good place in terms of the quality of care that is delivered at MBT. And I think it's testament to their hard work over the last few years in particular of rebuilding services that had to start all over again in 2014 in the new hospital, but they've rebuilt those services in new and better ways, and in ways that were recognised by the CQC as being outstanding for the way staff care for patients and outstanding in the leadership that clinicians and teams are providing. So I think it's a really good place to end the story of 2019-20. It's also my last AGM, so it's a great place for me to step off and to recognise the phenomenal support we've had from the board, from my team, who are here tonight to answer any questions that you might have, but importantly from the 10,000 staff who have worked exceptionally hard and for whom those CQC ratings are just one recognition of their achievements. And it's been a great privilege and a great joy every single day to work alongside them. As part of the formality of this AGM, there are a number of documents that I'd like you to reference to. So although we are doing these digitally, you are able to download all the relevant documents, the annual report, the quality account, which I would endorse, and the quality standards, and our trust strategy. And of course, the three parts of quality, of a quality and a safe hospital, are also its finances. So I'm going to hand over to Catherine to talk to you about the period of 2019, 2020 and how we have progressed financially. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. So I'll take you through the financial details of 2019 now in the last part of our formal presentation. So in 2019-20, we have managed to deliver within our budget for the fourth year in a row, and that enabled us, we had a deficit plan for this year of £6.3 million, and because we hit that deficit plan and surpassed it, we were able to generate additional bonus from the Department of Health, which took us into a surplus, and that's the first time we've been in a surplus for about 6 years. So that was a fabulous landmark year to be able to get the great benefit of all of our hard work on managing the services within the resources we had. As you'll know, MBT is very important for us, and one of our strategic objectives is to become financially secure in the long term. And this year is a year where we finalised our 5-year trust strategy. Alongside that, a financial sustainability plan and also a transformation plan to keep us on our journey of making sure our resources are deployed in the best way possible. As a trust, we have nearly £700 million worth of income. We're £667 million for this year, which was an increase of £61 million, which is nearly 10% in a year where the NHS received about a 2% increase. So that shows you that all of the hard work we've been doing on new services and building our sustainability has really paid off. In terms of looking forward to 2021, the impact of COVID, prior to the impact of COVID, we were planning a break-even year with £27 million of provider sustainability funding and requiring a savings target of 30 million. And in terms of that year, we also had a landmark achievement in the fact that £175 million worth of our deficits loans were repaid, and we were given public dividend capital, and that transaction has gone through in September, which has allowed us to be financially secure because we no longer owe Treasury £175 million in loans that we are not in a position to pay back. So in terms of looking forward, this year is slightly more difficult in the sense that COVID has meant that we've been funded in a different regime where we've been able to claim COVID costs, and we've also had an arrangement where we've been funded on our historical run rate rather than the PBR system that we've been used to charging. So in terms of this year, we have managed within our budgets well, and we intend to deliver on our financial objectives as well as keep patients safe in the hospital and deliver on those access and performance targets as we go through the year. The second half of the year, we are looking at delivering 1%, and also we are looking at delivering our activity and capacity in line with the COVID plans and the COVID stages we've all been working through to restore services and make sure all of our patients are delivering and receiving the care that they need in these difficult times. So I'm going to stop there and hand back over to Michelle, I believe, for questions.
Thank you, Catherine. I know that we have a number of people watching, and that's fantastic. So thank you for taking the time out to do that. We have no questions, I don't think. So it only remains for me to say thank you to the executive team, to Andrea, who will leave us in December after a very successful tenure at MBT. And I know on behalf of the staff, she will be greatly missed. So thank you to the executive team and to the senior leadership team across the hospital for a very successful year, a great achievement with the CQC rating. And we look forward to the coming year with a degree of trepidation given COVID, but I have such confidence in the leadership of this organisation that I know we will sit before you this time next year, and we will be reporting successes in the same way. So thank you, everybody. That is the end of the YouTube AGM broadcast.